Hi, this is Dan Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beachley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
I'm Jay. Let's go. From Jay's Way, keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Collin, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy Guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small-batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. Hey, well, happy Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show. My name is Dennis, also known as CANOEHOUND, and if this is your first time tuning in, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and hopefully we make enough, or do enough tonight to make a believer out of you, turn you into a subscriber. If you're watching this at a later time, well, thanks for watching a little late. I always say better late than never, right? Let's see here. Just a few things to get out of the way before we get into tonight's topic, which is a very interesting one. It's a show that I'm going to be learning a lot from myself. It's going to be quite fun. For those of you that might have missed last week's episode, we featured Ezekiel, a UK paddler from the YouTube channel Eze Adventurer, as well as one of his mates, Paul, from the YouTube channel Adventure Pauls. A couple of fellows from the UK who actually came down to paddle in Algonquin Park along with 2 other friends. Really a unique show. It was really cool to find out and learn and discover why they actually wanted to come to Canada to paddle in our wilderness over here. They got some really cool paddling opportunities over there, but you know what? they chose to come over here and try it out. And you know what? We kind of learned how fortunate we actually are to have what we have in our backyard, so to say. So if you missed that episode, you could check it out in our past episodes playlist. So by all means, go check that out. It was a really fun watch. If any of you watched their 9 or 10 part series that they had, it was just a fun episode. It was really cool to see how they enjoyed our backcountry. So that's really good. A bit of Algonquin Outfitter news. Algonquin Outfitters is once again presenting the Banff Mountain Film Festival, which will be taking place at the Algonquin Theatre in Huntsville, Ontario. Dates are Tuesday, January 24th through the 26th, and tickets are available now. The link is in the description below if it's something that interests you or if you would like some more information on it. But I can honestly say this: I watched a couple of the trailers of this year's film festival, and I'll tell you, some really, really cool stuff. I'd love to be able to make it up there myself to check it out. But we'll see what happens on that front. But you know what? Check it out. Get some more information. And like I said, tickets are available through Algonquin Outfitters as well. Really quick here, as I like to do, I'd like to shout out my channel members, both new and old. These people are supporters of the channel. Like I say, some are new, some have been around for a couple of years. You can discover these people and find out who my channel members are just by looking at the chat over there. You're going to see some of them have a little white box beside there with like a little montage, a little canoe and a sunset. If anybody's interested in becoming a channel member and supporting the channel, all you need to do is hit that join button that's right down around here somewhere. And you know what? By all means, you could get to learn what perks are available at what levels. And it goes to a great thing. It goes to bringing this show to you. It helps offset the costs of producing these episodes, the gear, the subscriptions to StreamYard that makes this all happen. So by all means, if you can, do it. If you can't, not a problem. Just come and enjoy the show when you can. Let's see here. We've got some happy birthday wishes this week. Past guest and organizer of the Paddle in the Park contest. I know I announced it last week, but Preston Sear has just celebrated a birthday. So Preston, if you're watching or you catch the show later, thanks very much for tuning in. And I see Inhale the Wind has just become a Day Tripper channel member. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com so we can get your perk started. The email address is right there. So thank you very much for your support there. Another birthday wish to a longtime subscriber and follower of the show here, Dave Wellington. Dave Wellington's celebrating a birthday. So Dave, happy birthday to you, my friend. Thanks very much for your longtime support as well. Do you have an upcoming special event or announcement that you'd like us to make? Right there, that canoehound@gmail.com. Drop us an email. Be glad to share it with everybody. Especially, I like the happy wishes, the birthdays, the anniversaries. Hey, if you just had a baby, that'd be really cool to announce on here too. So, by all means, let me know what's going on, and we'll share it with all our friends here. Short announcements tonight. Tonight, you know what? If you have any hot topics or guests that you'd like to see on the show, this email is so handy right here, and I get back to every email that's sent to me. So make sure, drop me an email. Let me know who you'd like to see on the show, what you'd like to see on the show, and as usual, I will do my darndest to try and make this happen. So that's a lot of fun there for me. And the last thing, if you have any questions tonight, all you need to do is in that chat over there, feel free to post your questions. The one thing that really helps me out is if you can put your question or put the word question before your question in capital letters. Just makes it easier for me to identify it, mark it, and then get it up at the appropriate time of the show. If I don't get through to them all, I apologize in advance. It's hard to do everything here. I'm a one-trick pony when it comes to that. And you know what? You're going to have an opportunity after the 8 o'clock hour and the swag giveaway tonight to join us here on panel. I will actually put the link up early so that anybody that might want to pop on and ask a question, they can get it all set up on their computers. And I'll post it a couple times throughout the show as well. So let's see here. I'm just going to find that link and I copy that. And we're really going to make this good to people that are watching on YouTube. I don't know if everybody knows, but This show is also broadcast onto Facebook through our channel at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show, or not our channel, but our Facebook page, Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. And it also streams live on Twitch. So if you're a Twitcher or you're a Facebooker or a YouTuber, you should be able to find it there. So just posted that link. If anybody wants to get ready for later on in the show, feel free to do so. Love to have you up. So without further ado, let's get on to tonight's topic. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that's a real learning curve for me. This whole idea was introduced to me by one of tonight's guests, somebody that's a regular on the show, and he'll be up here on screen in a moment. But first thing I have to ask you is, are you looking for adventure? Are you looking for a creative learning, recreational experience, and outdoor adventures that explore and celebrate the art, nature, and heritage of the Haliburton Highlands in all seasons? Tonight's guests are here to share some of that and fulfill all the aforementioned information. So, you know what? If you have any questions about the Haliburtons, these people are the ones to ask, I would say for sure. First is the founder and manager of a company called Yours Outdoors. Please welcome to the live stream. We have Barrie Martin. Hi, Barrie. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Greetings from the Haliburton Highlands.
Yes. Next up on the panel is a regular on the show. He's very well versed in the skills and knowledge of winter camping and is now an instructor for Yours Outdoors. Please welcome to the live stream, Pine Martin. Hey, Martin.
Good evening.
Long time no see.
Not that long.
Well, this is true, right? This is true. Probably see you again soon. I'm actually heading up to Huntsville this weekend, so I'll probably be up at Algonquin Outfitters this weekend to see the boys. So, yeah, on Sunday. See you Sunday. And then lastly, we have our final panelist is on the management committee, and she's in the basement. She's on the management committee for the Haliburton Highlands Nordic Trail Association and is a forest school teacher. Please welcome to the stream, Jolene Thomas. Hi, Jolene. How you doing? Oh, you're on mute. Got to hit your mute button.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. There we go. Now we got you. So this is going to be a real intuitive circle here going. I'm looking really forward to learning so much more about this. Barrie, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Yours Outdoors, how it got its start and what it is.
Yeah, many years ago, I graduated from Guelph as a wildlife biologist. Worked a little bit in the field, but ended up working at the Leslie M. Frost Natural Resources Center. Frost Center for short. It's on Highway 35 south of Dorset. So I worked there for 28 years and doing outdoor education and developing curriculum and outdoor experiences for school kids, teacher training, various groups that came there to get connected with nature and understand ecosystems and so on. So they closed that place in 2004. And so I was looking for something to do. I did a bit of consulting work. But I started this company, Yours Outdoors, which is really an extension of what I was doing at the Frost Center, which was creating learning experiences for people in the outdoors. So I started it in 2006, and it was a slow build because I had a bunch of projects going on, but it is what it is today, and and I continue to be managing everything related to Yours Outdoors. So.
That's very good. Barrie, I have to ask, is anybody having a difficult time hearing Barrie? Maybe you get a little closer to the microphone or something there. Yeah. Just so everybody can hear it, because nobody wants to miss anything here, right?
Can I hear it? Is this better at all?
Yeah, it's a little better. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you said you guys, you got your start, around 2006 with Yours Outdoors?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And what type of things do you offer? What is Yours Outdoors? What are you offering?
Well, I can get into that I have a few pictures if you're up for that. I might say that I don't know how many people on the call are familiar with the Haliburton Highlands, but if you're not, it's a great destination for adventure. We have 600 lakes, lots of forests. It's cottage country. Just to give you an idea of the size, Silent Lake Provincial Park is in Haliburton, and also Algonquin Outfitters at Oxtongue is in the Haliburton County. So that's a lot of territory and lots of opportunity for adventure. So if you don't mind, I'll take 10 minutes and show you some slides if you want to bring that up.
Yeah, here's your little slide screen. I'll let you have at that.
So who we are, we're an experience provider operating in the Haliburton Highlands, and we're offering experiences, art, nature, heritage, outdoor recreation. Been in business since 2006. And I guess the best way of describing the work I do is we're community-based tourism. And what that means, I work with probably 70 or 80 individuals, organizations, and companies to create and promote experiences that allow people to explore the Haliburton Highlands. We're just recently, Haliburton Forest, which is a big operation up here, recently purchased my company in 2020. They purchased my company, and together we represent a lot of tourism in the area. Just Haliburton Forest, for those who are not familiar, 100,000 acres, 100 lakes, a certified sustainably managed forest, lots of trails, 400 kilometers of trails and roads for hiking, biking, snowmobiling. They have some really amazing events there, ultra runs and several events in September. They have accommodation and camping, and they have some attractions like the Wolf Center and the Canopy Walk. So my company now is a division of Haliburton Forest. What we offer is authentic rural Canadian experiences. Many of them are off the beaten track, and that seems to be a trend with travelers these days. They're looking for something a little different. We try to employ the principles of experiential and transformative tourism. And probably the most important thing for my success of the company is that we have exceptional experience leaders. And that's why Martin and Jolene are here today, because they're just two of the folks that I can call upon to deliver excellent experiences. So we try to practice sustainable tourism, really put an emphasis on the best possible customer services. And our experiences, we probably have about 90 of them. We can buy them a la carte packages or custom itineraries. I spend a lot of time creating itineraries for couples, small groups, that sort of thing. And what we really try to do is try to offer experiences year round. There's no problem finding adventure in summer or adventure in the winter, but those shoulder seasons, we try to make an attempt to provide some adventures during those shoulder seasons. Mm-hmm. So I just go through a few of my winter experiences that we offer. Ice climbing. We offer introduction to ice climbing at Mediba Adventure Learning Center. It's just a 2-hour introduction, and it looks like something like this. That's their climbing wall, 15 meters high, 2 different slabs. And so you learn how to ice climb there, and there's a warming hut, and it's a pretty comfortable way of ice climbing. We also offer and work with Elements Guiding. We offer a half day and full day of climbing on natural ice.
Is that now? That's not natural, obviously. That's a man-made ice.
This one is man-made. Yeah, they flood that. It's an outdoor climbing wall that they flooded. So
very unique. Cool.
It's pretty cool, yeah. And it's a good workout.
Like that.
And ice fishing is big as well. Haliburton Forest is a great place to go fishing if you're looking for trout and rainbows and brookies and lake trout. And they have a very active fisheries management plan. This is our guide, Steve, another amazing guide. We took out 30 groups ice fishing last winter, and he had 100% success. So nice. He's really good at what he does, and the fisheries is really good as well. And then we offer things like Snowshoe Like a Canadian, which is just an introduction to snowshoeing, a little bit of going for a bit of a trek and getting beginners used to the sport. And then we have an extended experience called Walk into Winter, which includes a bush lunch. We're not doing any overnight stuff, but we could arrange that if someone was asking for that type of experience. Snowga.
Snowga.
yoga and snowshoeing together at last. So, and what that involves is you can't do much yoga on snowshoes, but you go for the snowshoe walk, you do some stretches and mindfulness, little force therapy, then you're into indoors for a yoga session, and then we wrap up with a gourmet vegan meal. So a little bit different. And then we've some people may know Craig McDonald. He's a legend in winter travel, and he has the most amazing collection of snowshoes from all over North America from years back, and he has stories to tell about those. So we go up to his place in Dwight and go down to his basement and spend a couple hours exploring these amazing snowshoes, and then we go for a trek in the nearby bush there. So amazing guy. And then we've got Ski Like a Canadian, and Jolene is one of our main instructors. Again, a 2-hour introduction to skiing, either classic or skate skiing. We can arrange for extended guided trips if people are interested. And we also, probably one of the few organizations that offer skijoring. And that's a different form of cross-country skiing, but becoming very popular. And a variation of that is kick sledding. So attaching your dog to a sled or your skis. And in the summertime, we attach a dog to bikes. So it's an interesting dog-assisted sports, we call it. Yeah. Again, something a little different, a heritage experience called Fur and Flintlock. This guy knows so much about the fur trade. We meet at his place, snowshoe out to a log cabin that's set up like a fur trade post, have a meal of baked beans and bannock and wild rice, hear the stories of the fur trade. It's got an amazing collection of artifacts related to the fur trade. So it's a really step back into history for sure. And then winter camping. And this is where Martin has joined us to provide some really unique winter camping experiences. And igloo building. And he will talk a little bit more about that later. So, and we also offer a series of other camping skills workshops. Tarpology 101, Firecraft Basics, Advanced Firecraft, Beat the Bugs. These are designed for people wanting to know more about camping in the backcountry. And other winter experiences. Here's a list of things that we offer. Again, not all outdoors. We have glass blowing. We have painting with wolves. We have a Shaga workshop. You can make a paddle.
That's incredible.
And anyway, so that's more or less what we offer. And like I said, it's really focusing on the great things to do in the Albertan Highlands. So
that's excellent. I never realized, like, I've been through your website several times and never realized quite how many actual activities that you do have. And it must be a real job just to find people like Jolene and Martin to actually present these types of things, right? So
yeah, and we're fortunate. I've been able to find folks, and sometimes it's you meet a person who's doing amazing things, and you say, okay, how do I create an experience that might be of interest to the public?
Sure.
So, anyways, that's kind of what we're all about.
Awesome. And now booking, they would book all these things directly through your website. Do they need to call and book? What's the best format to do that?
No, you can book through the website. There's a booking request form there. It's not a booking, but we get your request. We can see if we can accommodate you, customize it a bit if necessary, or in some of them you can just link through a regular booking system and pay right online. It's through Albertan Forest. So number of ways of booking, but you should be able to find what you need to do on the website for sure.
Yeah. So now I can really vouch for you to say that you do have very experienced people, because all too often I call on Martin to come up and share his knowledge of things. I've met Martin several times. He's just a wealth of information. So Martin, you're teaching an igloo building class for Yours Outdoors?
Yeah, so this winter I'm offering an igloo building workshop, and it's igloo building with a view to camping in an igloo. So it's a hands-on practical workshop where we go out and we actually in real time during the day build an igloo. In fact, this past weekend I built 3. On Saturday, we went out with 2 different couples. They were all friends of one another. We went out together, and we built 2 igloos in one day. And they camped out overnight and slept in them. And then the following day, I went to Magnetawan, and there was a family there, a couple and their 11-year-old daughter, and they wanted to build an igloo and they wanted to camp in it as well. So what we do is we build an igloo, and during the course of the build, it takes a number of hours to build the igloo. We talk about everything having to do with snow shelters, how to build them, the different kinds of snow shelters, the advantages and disadvantages of igloos and quinzees over tents and so forth. We talk about how it's possible to build an igloo even in these snow conditions. Most people think you cannot build an igloo in Ontario snow conditions, for instance. They think you have to be in the Arctic, but that's not the case. And then we talk an awful lot about how to outfit your igloo for the purposes of camping. What you need in the way of a sleep system. Can you cook in an igloo? How do you light it? How do you heat it? How cold is it? So that's the igloo building workshop. So the lion's share of it is actually working and building an igloo, so that at the end of it, you have an igloo, and you have the option, depending on where we are, of camping in it. So if it's at Halliburton Forest, for instance, it's possible for you to camp in it. If it's on your property, obviously, well, now it's literally your igloo. It's yours for the whole winter until it thaws and melts. It's yours for the whole winter, and so it's great for you. It's great for the kids, and you can camp in it. But part of the instruction is the science of igloo building, the physics of it, the 3-dimensional geometry of it, some of the physics of snow and how snow sinters, and why it's possible to build these structures and have them stable and sound so that they don't collapse on you, so that they're perfectly safe shelters, and then everything to do with camping in an igloo, in a snow shelter, which is very different than camping in a hot tent, for instance, and even quite a bit different than cold tenting.
Right. So now, when you say that, you do the quinz, or you do the igloos, but you also do quinzees as well as stuff like that. I know you're pretty well versed in doing that as well. Which is easier?
Well, it depends. So if you know how to build an igloo and you know how to use a certain kind of tool called the Icebox Igloo tool, which is a kind of jig for making an igloo have the right proportions and uniformly thick walls. If you know how to use that tool, that's a lot easier. It's not as sweaty. You don't get as wet. You're only moving snow once. It's a lot easier if you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, though, if you've never built a snow shelter, then the quinzee is the easiest thing to do. But there are some do's and don'ts there. Quinzees are much less stable structures. They will not stand up, for the whole winter. They have a tendency to sag and start to fold in on themselves after 2 or 3 days. That's why most people only sleep in a quinzee for 1 or 2 nights. Seldom beyond that. They're a little bit unstable, and there's always the risk of a collapse with a quinzee if you don't know what you're doing. So in the course of the workshop, we talk about quinzees and how to build a quinzee safely. And in fact, I have a 25-page booklet, fully illustrated, color photos, diagrams, text that goes over all of this, and that imparts to all of the people enjoying the experience how to safely build a quinzee. So if they don't want to build an igloo, for instance, they can still build a quinzee in their backyard with their kids. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and I teach the right way to do it so that they don't have to fear a collapse in the middle of the night or in the course of the build or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So how long will one of these things last? You say until it melts, pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, it's really only the weather. So when you build an igloo has a particular shape. The walls are uniformly thick all the way around, and it has a particular shape called a catenary arch, and that arch has some interesting properties. And the most interesting property is that it is really, really stable. It does not want to fold in on itself. It will stay upright indefinitely. In fact, as things progress and things start to warm up, and even if it rains on it and stuff like that, what will usually happen is the igloo will shrink, but it will maintain its shape, its integrity, persist despite really frightening weather sometimes. Now, eventually, it can get rained on enough and thawed enough that actually the roof can start to fall in, but you presumably wouldn't be camping in those conditions. But I've had igloos that have lasted entire winters. I usually build one in my backyard, and I usually build one in, December or whenever I get a good big snow. And I'll build one in December, and it's there until March. until the big March meltdown. So they don't usually collapse. What usually happens, honestly, is the sun and the wind sublimates them. The sun starts to burn a hole in it. A warm wind will start to thin the wall on one side, and it'll get a hole in it, and that hole will get bigger and bigger and bigger. So basically, igloos, they don't usually collapse. They evaporate. It's kind of, yeah, and they evaporate, and there'll be this gigantic hole in the side of an igloo sometimes, and the igloo will remain standing. You think it's impossible, but it's extraordinary.
Yeah, you almost have to picture Frosty the Snowman, our old classic cartoon right there.
Yeah.
He just sort of evaporates, right? He melted and evaporated.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You had photos that you wanted to show, or did you? Have
yeah, I have a few photos. Yeah, if you'll permit me, I have a few photos.
I find it ultimately interesting. So yeah, if you want to pop that in as a share, and then once we show that, then we'll have a little chit chat with Jolene over here.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Jolene. Still see you there. Let's see here. Question here while you're trying to work on getting that up. Beauty of the Backcountry is asking, do you also teach how to build quinzies?
I do. Now, we don't offer that by name on the calendar or on the website at Yours Outdoors. But if someone wants to learn how to build a quinzee, absolutely, we can build a quinzee. Because Yours Outdoors offers all kinds of custom experiences. In fact, the experiences that I've offered are all customizable. I have a little bit more to say about that afterwards, if you like. So are you able to see my screen right now?
Yeah, I'll pull that up in one sec. Quick question for Barrie. How big are the classes? What are the class sizes? Or is that the proper term, class size?
You could call it that. I mean, there's certainly lots of learning going on. Pretty small groups. A group of 8 or 10 is a large group for us. We're often working with 4 or 6 people. So it's, it's a pretty intimate learning experience. So that's we like to work with small groups. I mean, there's some reasons for that. Transporting large groups around, we just don't have access to public transportation or transportation for tourism. So, that's one of the constraints, but definitely small group work.
Good to know. Okay, so Martin's got some pictures here or something to share. Let's see here. There we go.
All right. Yeah. So this was taken at Haliburton Forest last Saturday. We had a group of 4 people who wanted, there were 2 couples, and they wanted to build an igloo each. So this is me in the background with the red hat, directing a couple of people. So there's a lady there. She's that's Karen. She's building the first course of blocks for an igloo using that tool called the Icebox Igloo tool, the jig. Takes quite a bit of practice to learn how to use this tool. By the time you've built 1 or 2 igloos, though, most people have the hang of it. And that's her partner opposite her, who's shoveling snow into that form, which is what builds the blocks. And there's actually something interesting to say about this. Now, here she is sort of going all the way around. You'll notice it starts off as a low ramp, and it builds a course of blocks. There's something kind of interesting about this occasion, though, when we built this igloo. It was really challenging conditions. First of all, it was minus 19 when we arrived, when we started at 9 a.m., which is the coldest morning we've had yet this winter. Not particularly cold, but the coldest we've seen yet. And we had tons of snow over the Christmas holidays, as people around here will recall. We had, about 3 feet of snow. But that was followed by an enormous thaw and rains, freezing rain and rain, and all that snow melted away. And what was left was this hard-packed ice, not snow, but ice. And atop that, there was perhaps 3 or 4 inches of snow that was about, more than 2 weeks old and had been somewhat saturated by some of this rain and had frozen hard. And so it had the quality that we call sugar. That is, the snow was sugary. It wasn't wet and sticky. At minus 19, snow was never wet and sticky. But it wasn't like that light, fluffy, fresh powder that you get immediately after a snowstorm that binds well to itself. This was pure sugar snow. That is to say, if you pick up a shovelful of it and you tip your shovel, it pours off like beach sand. So these were actually really challenging conditions to work with. This is difficult snow to work with. It was quite cold out. But worst of all, there was only 3 or 4 inches of snow. Nevertheless, we were able to build the igloo. So that's me in the center of the igloo there, handling the ice box. And there's a whole team of people that are building up a shelf around the igloo that we're going to need to stand on in order to complete the igloo at its highest stages. And one person, the fellow in black there, is filling the form up for me while I pack the snow. That's continuing the build there. More of the same. And now I'm trapped in the igloo there. I can't get out. And at some point I had to go to the bathroom, so I had to ask one of the participants to carve an entrance. So I'm standing there directing him, telling him exactly how to carve the entrance so that I can squeeze out. And then I'm back in the igloo, continuing the build. And this is near the end of the completion of one of the igloos. Notice I'm leaning my full weight on the igloo in order to finish packing the snow in the roof. And that gentleman is again pouring snow on top there that I'm packing. Well before the igloo is complete, you can lean your full body weight on it. And unless you just sort of poke an elbow in or something like that and break through, if you distribute your weight the way I'm doing, the igloo will support you. And by the time you're done, usually the following morning, you can stand and climb on top of the igloo. That's the completed igloo. That's the first igloo. We began a second one because there were two couples and they each wanted to have their own igloo. So that's the second igloo in progress. The first igloo is completed. I had the good fortune of having a friend of mine, Andrea, volunteer to help, and her help was invaluable. Look at the snow. Look how little snow there is. What she's doing there with that shovel and scraper is she is moving snow from as far as 20, 30, 40 feet away to bring it to the build site. Wow. So that we have snow. That's how tough it was. When I say that these were difficult conditions, these were really difficult conditions. And I'm really grateful to Andrea for all that tireless work that she put in that morning and afternoon. She brought the snow that everyone else was able to work with. And this is the completion of the second igloo. And I just want to point out one thing. Notice the long shadows, right? We were running out of daylight there. It takes several hours to build an igloo, but we managed to build 2 of them in less than 8 hours. And these are 8-foot wide igloos. That is to say the floor diameter inside is 8 feet across. So it sleeps 2 adults comfortably. And there's the 2 completed igloo there. Those are our participants, very proud of themselves that they completed the igloos and they slept in them. This is Laura, one of the participants, peering in to her igloo. That's her sitting up in her igloo. I'm sharing these with permission, by the way. These were sent to me by the participants, almost all of these photos. And there they are, standing in front of the second igloo.
Go back one picture. I like the logo. What does it say? Icebox. Back one more.
Oh yeah, Icebox. Yeah, that's the name of the tool. Yeah, that's not just advertising. Actually, the reason it says Icebox on every block that you build is because that's a kind of inscribed or embossed logo, and it helps the snow stay in position when you're building the block. It has a functional purpose. It's not merely advertising. And actually, if you don't like it in your igloo, I don't actually. I always just take my mitt and just rub it off, and off it comes very easily.
Right.
And there's the igloo shortly before bed. This is Nelson. He's got all his sleeping gear in the bin, and he's bringing it into the igloo. Part of the workshop is educating people on what they'll need if they want to camp. So we do a telephone call or an email exchange beforehand, usually a telephone call where I brief everyone on everything that they'll need to bring so that they can sleep comfortably in the igloo. If they want to cook, what they'll need, lighting, heating, all that sort of stuff. And that's it for that. Yeah.
Cool. That's where'd you learn how to do this, Martin? You know, I've had John's on the show several times to talk about it, but I've never picked up where you actually learned how to do this.
Well, I've been camping in snow shelters since I was a teenager, or even a preteen, I think. But we were building Quincy's, and they were great. They were great fun. They were fantastic shelters, far superior to any coal tent. But they're very impermanent, as I say. They because of their shape and the unevenness of the thickness of the walls, they sag and fold in on themselves. So they're very impermanent. So that was always a frustration. You couldn't go camping for very long in them. So then I happened to hear about this contraption called the Icebox Igloo tool. That's the invention of this kind of lone genius named Igloo Ed of Colorado. Igloo Ed is a guy who goes up into the Colorado Rockies. He escorts and guides people up there on skiing and snowshoeing ventures. And then he got tired of building snow caves, which are difficult and a little dodgy, a little dangerous. And he decided to start building igloos, but there was no way to do it. And he figured out a way to make snow sinter, and he came up with this contraption. When I first heard of it, it kind of looked gimmicky, like a kid's toy. I didn't want to buy one. I finally got my hands on one, tried it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the way. This is the holy grail of snow shelters. So it's a great way. And that's how I heard about it. And that was about 12 years ago. And I haven't gone back to, well, I have camped in Quincy since, but only because I've shown people how to make them and, ended up camping with them. But if I go out on my own, I'm going to make an igloo. I'm not going to build a Quincy.
Sure. It must be a good tool, because I know you're very methodical about the gear that you buy. And it's something that's pretty cool. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. And we'll probably get into a bit of your tarpology stuff there in a little while. But I wanted to talk to Jolene here and find out a little bit about more about Jolene and what you offer, and the connection between, Yours Outdoors and the the Halliburton Nordic Trails Association, right?
Yeah, it's quite the handful.
Yeah. I always trip over this tongue, so
we shorten it to HHNTA to keep it simple.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I much prefer being outside than inside in front of a computer and with good internet and things like that. So I apologize if it's a bit glitchy, but I guess I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, and Barrie actually would call me every fall, give me some dates. When are you available? When can you teach some cross-country ski lessons? That's sort of how my connection to Yours Outdoors started. And I don't even know how it happened, Barrie. I really don't. But I've been with HHNTA since it's almost 20 years now. And I'm primarily the membership secretary and champion of some of the trails. We have a really unique and diverse selection of cross-country trails up here in Halliburton County. And one of the trail systems that's near my buddy with me.
Oh, there we go.
There, I'm back.
There you go. Welcome back.
Thanks. It's a dog-friendly trail, so I can take my furry friends with me. And I teach cross-country skiing, and I coach our youth program, which is quite large. We have about 80 kids this year that are between the ages of 4 and 14 learning to cross-country ski, which is really important to the future of the sport. And then on my side gig, I also work for S04 School, which is basically school outside all day long, in the rain, in the snow, and in the hot with the bugs. Wow.
And who's that school for? Is that for like children or?
Yeah, it's for children ages. Well, it's for my group is for children ages 4 to 12, like elementary school children.
Wow, what a great way to learn.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at 4 walls, right?
Yeah. I feel like it shouldn't be called forest school, because, people feel like we should be doing, math with pen and paper, or sitting at a table for a little bit more of the day. But there's so many wonderful skills that children learn just by being outside and not having a lot of boundaries. So.
Mm-hmm. So your skills as a cross-country skier, then, to be able to instruct this, how long have you been skiing? How did you gain your experience?
I met, when I was a teenager, I met a Finnish family, and I fell in love with everything that family did. And between canoe tripping and winter camping and whitewater kayaking and cross-country ski racing, and I've been hooked ever since. So I much prefer doing long distance ski races, or marathons, I guess, in classic. I like classic skiing. And I've been skiing a very long time. I won't tell you exactly how old I am, but I've been skiing for a very long time.
Yeah. 28 of the 29 years, right?
Longer than that.
Oh, we won't get into it, but yeah. So Barrie, now, you obviously offer, according to what you showed on your slide presentation, there are so many different aspects to what Yours Outdoors offers. How do you come up with these new ideas? Like, I've seen you're offering like glass blowing classes or instruction, and all these things are all hands-on, right? So how do you actually come up with the theme of different programs?
Well, certainly the people that are in the area, amazing people doing amazing things. And the glass blowing studio, it's there. They offer workshops, and I connected with them. We've been working together for a long time. And what I do for them is I'm selling their workshops, giving them more promotion, and we work on a commission basis, but it's bringing more business to them. In other cases, I've got one of my big sellers in the summertime is rock hounding, mineral collecting, and I was looking for a guide for that, and they found this fellow by the name of Mitch Preston, and he's an amazing guide for rock hounding. But it turns out he also has a glass studio where it's called flame working, and where he works, rather than glass blowing, he works with the torch with rods and tubes. And so once I found that out, I said, this is something we need to offer. So it's really finding those amazing people and seeing if they're interested in sharing their skills and knowledge with other people, and bringing a little bit of extra spending money for them. So that's kind of how it works. Other times it's an inspiration kind of out of the blue at 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we should do something like this. And then you start to, okay, how do we build this experience? One thing we're working on right now, which is an interesting approach, is calling it how does your pot grow? And visiting some local cannabis growers and hearing about the art and science of growing their 4 plants in the backyard. And then we have a lunch, and then we go to Mitch's studio and make a pipe for at the flame working studio. So it's really trying to combine a number of different activities to make it a really attractive experience. And so, like I said, off the beaten track, but it's turned out really well. Another leader, my ice fishing guide, is also an expert in wild edibles and mushrooms in particular, and he offers a great workshop on an introduction to foraging for wild edible mushrooms. That's one of our big sellers in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And he leads our Shaga workshops, the fundamentals of Shaga, and so it's just a couple of examples of amazing people that I get to work with, and I've been at this for a long time, but I'm still finding those people and having those conversations about, hey, do you want to share your knowledge and skills?
Sure. Now you're organizing these things. Do you have opportunity to partake in any of these workshops yourself?
For sure. I don't. We do often do a field test. I have to participate to feel comfortable in offering and promoting those experiences. So it's lots of fun. That's why I haven't retired yet.
Yeah. Where was it? I see you call yourself what was it? Oh goodness.
Experience broker.
Experience broker. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, right? For sure. Yeah. Martin, somebody was asking a question earlier. I think you may have answered it in the chat, but maybe you could just elaborate on it there. Can you build an igloo without the icebox tool?
Yes, you absolutely can, but it's very, very difficult. In fact, it's impractically difficult. And this is something that I actually cover in the workshop, although briefly, because there's really no time to devote to such a difficult procedure. But yes, in our snow conditions, you could, in principle, build a traditional block igloo. So with the icebox igloo tool, what you're doing is you're building a block right in position, and it's going to stay there. It's never going to move. You're literally building the block right where it needs to be. The traditional way is the Inuit way, is to go into an area where there's the right kind of snow conditions called Arctic wind sintered snowpack. And you cut a block with a saw or a machete or some similar tool. And you cut a big block. And these blocks are so hard sintered, they weigh a ton. They're actually really, really heavy, extremely dense. You can stand on them, they're that strong. And they cut those blocks and then they put them where they need to. So they create a quarry. They have a quarry where they find the right kind of snow conditions and they build the blocks that way. We don't get those kinds of snow conditions. We cannot just go out and find the snow that's of the right type and make that our quarry and quarry blocks from it. So the only alternative to the Icebox Igloo tool in our snow conditions is to go out somewhere where there's a big open field of snow, nice deep snow, and tramp it down with your snowshoes, right? And we're talking about a fairly big area here, right? Like the size of like a gymnasium, a high school gymnasium. And then take off your snowshoes and tramp it again, this time just in your boots to go deeper in the snow. Then put on your snowshoes again and tramp it down again. What you're trying to do is you're trying to compact and hard center that snow a couple of feet deep, which is hard, right? If you're in snowshoes, you're only going to compact the snow the first few inches. You got to go deeper than that. Then let it sinter, that is, let it harden up overnight. The next day you can go back and now you can quarry blocks out of it. But then you have to understand that those blocks are not like the Arctic wind-sintered snowpack. These blocks that you're going to carve now are much more fragile, much more delicate. They have a tendency to break and crumble in transportation. And when you try to position them, they're likely to chip and break and so forth. So I've done it twice. The first time was an abysmal failure. The second time I got a completed igloo. But I mean, it took me 3 days. It took me 1 day to just sinter up the snow and then 2 days of actually trying to build this thing. And then I had a completed igloo and it didn't look very pretty. It didn't quite have the right shape. It wasn't going to last the whole winter, that's for sure, because I didn't yet have the know-how of what shape I was trying to approximate. I learned that from using the Icebox Igloo tool, what shape the Inuit people actually were always emulating when they built their igloos. So now I have some better understanding. So now I think I could probably do a better job of it, but it's a huge labor. And you have to have, a day's preparation before you try it. And even then, if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what the shape is that you're trying to achieve, and it's very counterintuitive, you're likely not going to achieve the shape that you want. So yes, in principle, you can do it. You will probably do it badly. You'll find it an awful lot of work and you won't be satisfied. And you could build, 3 or 4 or 5 igloos with an Icebox Igloo tool in that time, or, a couple of Quinzys at least in that time. So I would recommend either a Quinzy or an Icebox Igloo in our snow conditions. Don't try to emulate the Inuit. First of all, they have the right snow conditions and they really know exactly what they were doing in that build. And if you don't, you're probably not going to meet with success. So I don't want to discourage people from even trying, but I want people to have a realistic understanding of what the challenge is before them.
So essentially, what you're offering then is the southern approach to igloo building. Right? That's
right. So what I liken it to the difference between a birch bark canoe, which would be like the traditional Inuit block quarries of igloos, and like a modern Kevlar canoe. They're both canoes, right? A birch bark canoe is a canoe, and a modern Swift, Kevlar fusion canoe is a canoe. They're both canoes, but the procedures for achieving the same end are completely different. In the end, they are functionally equivalent. They both work equally well, but how you get there is very, 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 very different. And credit has to go to the indigenous people that came up with these ideas. The canoe and the igloo, I think, are two just fantastic, absolutely genius pieces of human ingenuity and cultural accomplishments. So the Icebox Igloo tool is as a contraption, its own kind of little genius invention, but no one would come up with that contraption without knowing what an igloo is supposed to look like and how what its function is supposed to be.
Right. So now, Jolene, yourself, is it just the cross country skiing that you're sort of spearheading for Yours Outdoors, or are there any other programs that you head up?
No, cross country skiing is probably my number one, right, Barrie? And then I do an occasional snowshoe adventure, some paddling, and some. I guess I did a couple of sculpture forest tours, and if the canopy tours need an extra person, and I've done that. So I try and take advantage of all the opportunities for learning Barrie has, so that I can be used sort of for anything. But
Sure.
skiing's my favorite.
What is the Sculpture Forest Tour? What exactly is that?
Ooh. Well, in Haliburton County, right in Haliburton, at Glebe Park, we have a sculpture forest, which I'm a bit rusty, and Barrie, maybe you might want to interject, but we've got sculptures that are just throughout the forest, and there's a trail that's about 1 kilometer long that you can walk, and each sculpture is very unique and different and has a story to tell.
Interesting. And now, are these like trees that have been like chainsaw sculptured type of deal, or
no? Everything, all of the
more
sculptures,
interesting.
Yeah, it's getting very, very interesting. And I think the Sculpture Forest Committee puts a people bid to have their sculptures included into the forest, and I think some of them, some of them are families in memory of a loved one. They'll commission a sculpture to be added to the walk. So a lot of them have some really great stories, and the public can come and walk that kilometer trail on their own. But when you have a guide, you get the background story of, why did this piece of rock get here? Where this piece of rock came all the way from Africa. Holy cats.
Wow.
There's a really great one on Fleming that gives a little backstory, because the Sculpture Forest backs on to Fleming College, and it's pretty neat.
Sounds interesting.
This time of year, you can go through the Sculpture Forest, you can snowshoe through, but also the groom ski trails pass through the Sculpture Forest. So every season, the sculptures look different. Every time of the day, the lighting changes, and so you can visit that Sculpture Forest many times and have a pretty cool experience.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, yeah, I never realized that the Haliburton area has so much to offer, right? Yet, I guess as with any area, you don't really know until you sort of dig in, right, and find out more about it. Barrie, so what are some of the more popular workshops that you have, ones that you just can't keep up with, type of thing?
Good question. It varies from season to season. I know one that's going to be really popular. We just offered it for the first time last week, which is called Predator Prowl, and it happens at the Wolf Center in Haliburton Forest, and you get time to with the wolves, observing the wolves, and then we have a presentation with live birds of prey. So if our first session is any indication, that's going to take off. But in terms of other programs, I would say that glass blowing is really popular. The mushrooms, the wild edible mushrooms, the rock hounding, paddling, and in the wintertime, the snowshoeing, the skiing are quite popular, and certainly the igloo building, we're getting a lot of interest with that as well. So.
Interesting. You know what? I wanted to ask, and this is for the people in the chat. If anybody has taken, I noticed a few of you have done the sculpture walk in the forest there. If anybody has taken courses, come on up and share your experience with everybody of what you learned, or the course that you may have taken, or the workshop. I guess workshop's probably a better term for it. Share the workshop that you that you had participated in. Just to let people know, what you thought of it, and would you do it again, or would you recommend it? I'm sure most people would probably recommend it, because they're well thought and well instructed. So if anybody wants to pop up, I'm just going to once again put the link here in the chat, and we'll bring you up on panel after the break that we're going to take here in a few short moments. Now, Martin, you mentioned that you're also teaching a couple other workshops as well besides the igloo building. You're more than a one-trick pony, right?
I like to think so. Yeah. So last winter with Yours Outdoors, I offered a course on hot tent winter camping. So this was a full-on course, though. This was a camping trip. This wasn't sort of a day in the woods and of show and tell. This was, we are going camping. We're going for 1 or 2 nights. Most people opted for 2 nights, 3 days. One group wanted to just do an overnighter. But we cover everything you need to bring, the kind of gear. Between myself and what Yours Outdoors has in the way of equipment, we're able to equip people so that they have their own hot tent, their own stove, their own sleds. And we teach you how to pack the gear. We make sure that you have everything you need. We do a video call consultation beforehand to make sure people know what to bring in the way of clothing, in the way of a sleep system. We can help them if they don't have a sleep system. We can procure some equipment, some rentals and stuff like that, things like snowshoes, but also, what are you going to eat, right? I advise people on what to bring in the way of food, cookware. A lot of people don't have a lot of camping equipment sometimes. People are sometimes complete novices to camping, and next thing you know, they're going hot tenting as their first backcountry camping trip. And these trips are backcountry camping trips. They're like, you really are sometimes quite removed. Sometimes not, sometimes front country. Some of the trips were front country. One of them was like out on Crown land, actually, nowhere near Halliburton. That's something I should mention. The experiences don't always have to be in Halliburton. So, for instance, on Sunday, I went to someone's property in Magnetawan, which is in the Almaguin Highlands, just a little bit north of Muskoka. I've been out in near Parry Sound, for instance, to do a hot tenting course on Crown land last winter. So the course is not just how to pack, but how to sled haul, the art of sled hauling, uphill, downhill, through the bush, and then how to set up camp. How to set up the tent, how to set up the stove, how to use the stove safely, how to find the kind of wood that you need, the difference between hardwood and softwood, how to process it down, how to set up your bedding inside, how to procure water out there. And now we try to keep people off the ice, but we do try to source our water from a frozen lake or river. Everything goes on under my supervision. The groups have to be small because I need to sort of be able to see everyone at all times so that no one wanders off on the ice or, tries to take down a tree or something like that without knowing what they're doing. So there's instruction on tool use, on saws, on axes, how to baton with a knife. All of that is part of the course. And then, of course, how to cook and sleep and enjoy your hot tent. And then how to pack everything up at the end and hike out again. So it's a complete 2 or 3 day course on hot tenting. And so if you don't have a hot tent, if you don't have a stove, if you don't have a sled, you don't have any of that, and you don't have much of a sleep system, we can work it all out. Much of that equipment we have, and what we don't have, we can arrange through rentals, which is what we did last year for practically all of the participants.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Buddy out there in Alberta, Brian J is asking, any chance of making it a road show, say to Central Alberta? Brian, I think Brian's missing Ontario a little bit, right? So
yeah, we need to bring him back here.
Yeah. Linda over here at Lipstick Lodge is asking, any upcoming cross-country ski classes coming up? Anybody know?
Yeah, if you go to our website, I have a calendar there. Or if you just search Ski Like a Canadian, it'll bring up a page with the details and the rates, and there'll be some available dates that we've put on the calendar. We're not limited by those dates. If you have another date that you want to ski, then as long as we got advance notice, we'll reach out to Jolene and try to make it happen. So that's all part of that, trying to deliver the best adventures when people want to. So
perfect.
Preferably when there's snow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What are the conditions like up there right now?
It's beautiful and white.
Yeah. Okay.
It is. We just don't have enough snow, as Martin was saying. We just need a little bit more. 10 centimeters would make all of our recreational activities so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I have to say something though. I didn't realize when I went to Halliburton Forest on Saturday how much the snow had gone down, because I had been there about a week before to scope things out. Well, maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks with Barrie. We were looking for suitable locations for these igloo builds, and there was way more snow. and we'd already lost a lot to thaw, but we have continued to lose some since then. So when I got to the site, I was like, my heart sank. I thought, oh no, I don't know, are we going to finish these two igloos? And these people were really determined. They really wanted to complete the igloos, and they were really game. They were full of heart, and they really pulled together as a team, and we got it done. But we got it done despite having to move an enormous amount of snow a very considerable distance to the build site. So I mean, even when there's little snow, it's possible to achieve this, right? But I mean, for skiing, you're not going to bring your snow to where you're going to go skiing. So you've got to have the right weather.
We've been able to make magic with what we've been given. It's been as best as it can. And thankfully for Facebook feeds and memories, we can see, year after year, there's a January thaw. So this is just an extended January thaw. Mm-hmm. It's coming back.
Our ice climbing season has been short. It took a while to build the ice, and just this week we're offering our first ice climbing sessions. And I should have mentioned that's a very popular winter activity. The interest is growing and growing. So come out and try some ice climbing.
Yeah, you know what? We're not the only ones facing no snow problems here. Mustang 774 is in St. John's, Newfoundland, saying his grass is still green. Yeah, we're almost like that in Southern Ontario. We got a little bit of snow here, but it's nothing like we should have. The weather nowadays is just seems to be so weird, right? It's not fun. If you like the snow, it's not fun. So, yeah. Well, you know what? We're at 8:00 here. I'm just going to take a quick commercial break, give everybody the opportunity to refresh a drink or get rid of a drink, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned because we are doing a swag giveaway, and you'll need all the details when we return. So we'll be right back with y'all. If I could find the right button there. Here we go.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
Tonight's episode of Canoehounds Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals, fresh, freeze-dried, small batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. And welcome back to the overtime portion of Canoehounds Outdoor Adventure Show. We are just getting ready here. Going to give you some details on tonight's swag giveaway. Hope you're enjoying tonight's show. But let's bring Barrie on panel again here, and we'll get back with Martin and Jolene in a few moments, and anybody that might want to pop onto panel here to ask any questions or share experiences. I'd really like to see anybody that's had experiences with Yours Outdoors to please come on panel for a few moments here and just share what you experienced. That's going to be a nice thing if you can do that for us. Anyway, so Barrie, for our tonight's swag giveaway, you mentioned that you have something that you'd like to offer up. What would that be?
Yeah, I'm very happy to offer up a gift certificate for $100, and you can apply that to any Yours Outdoors experience. You can apply that to any Halliburton Forest experience as well. That could be Wolf Center, it could be Canopy Walk, it could be accommodation. Halliburton Forest has places, campsites, and accommodation to rent as well. So it's wide open, but apply it to whatever type of experience or service you would like.
Cool. Now, just out of curiosity, what is the average cost of one of your workshops? Does it range high to low?
Right. Yeah. Well, it depends on if it's the length, the duration of the workshop, and anywhere from 2 hours to 3 days, like the camping workshop. So it really big range, but typically for a half day experience, I would say it ranges between $50 and $90, $100.
Wow.
So it
Excellent.
really depends on what it is. I mean, things like glass blowing is quite expensive, whereas a guided snowshoe walk is a different price, so for sure. So.
Sure. So I will also throw in myself a Canoe Hound Adventures decal pack and patch kit. So please get your entries in. And tonight's swag giveaway question is, what year was yours outdoors established? I know Barrie has mentioned it a few times throughout the show. If you're not sure, take your best guess. And you can send your entries into COASprize@gmail.com, and you have until Sunday to get your entries in, Sunday at 11 p.m. So please do take a chance to win. You know what? Get your entries in regardless, because you know what? At the end of the season, I got a little bit of a surprise brewing, and the more entries you get in throughout the season, the better your chances of winning at the end of the season. So by all means, get your entries in for a chance to win a $100 Yours Outdoors gift certificate and a Canoe Hound Adventures swag pack. I will leave this on screen for just a moment, and we will bring our guests back up again. I'll bring Jolene up. I see Martin is still probably refreshing his coffee. Oh, we'll take that. Actually, there he is there. All righty. Martin, how you doing?
Very well, thanks.
Good.
Yes.
Welcome back. Okay, so Barrie, you had mentioned that. Now I just asked you that there, what the average, the costs are, and you mentioned that you have different lengths of classes. Like it depends on the type of class. So you have like little, few hour workshops, and then you have longer workshops. What are some of the longer ones, and what kind of details can you give us as to, say, for instance, your camping workshop?
Well, Martin described that workshop as a 3-day workshop or a 2-day workshop. I would say that's our longest. We don't do a lot of overnight tripping, other than the winter camping that was mentioned. We certainly could, but there's lots of other companies in that business, and we've chosen not to do multi-day canoe trips, for example. So our longest is about 2 nights, 3 days. And I was getting creative earlier with a few years ago about taking a theme like minerals, rock hounding, and building a whole bunch of related experiences around it. We go out and hike a property to see some untouched mineral deposits and crystals, hear the stories. Then we go rock hounding in the afternoon. In the evening, we have a rock concert, and we visit a local artist whose art was inspired by road cuts and geology and that sort of thing. So playing around with themes like that, and we do a lot of that when we customize an adventure. We often get people coming from overseas looking to experience Canada, and we put together a number of experiences and a theme, and give them the best possible experience in the Canadian outdoors. So lots of creativity, lots of customization.
Do you get a lot of non-Canadians participating in these workshops?
It's building. We're part of what they call a travel trade workshop partnership, and that's working with a whole bunch of other tour operators across Eastern Ontario, from here to the Ottawa Valley, and reaching out to those international travelers. And of course, COVID killed that, and now it's just recovering again. But if we can get our international travelers returning, they're always very appreciative of the experiences, and tend to have a big budget as well.
Yeah.
So seeing more and more international travelers.
Yeah. Well, it's last week, my show, we touched on, these gentlemen from the UK that came down to paddle in Algonquin, right? it's amazing the resources or the things that we have that they don't have, that we take for granted, but it's in our own backyard, so to say, right?
Well, and COVID was a really good opportunity for people to discover their own backyard.
Sure.
When we weren't shut down, business wasn't all that bad during COVID because people were finding things to do close to home. And then they end up being surprised at what's in their own backyard. And that would go to any area of Ontario, I think, is to discover those things that are so interesting in their area that you never paid attention to. What we're finding now that there's not as much concern around COVID, although it's still with us. People are now traveling out of province, and we notice that there's not as many bookings because people have been desperate to get out and travel to other parts of Canada or other parts of the world. So it's an interesting phenomenon to see that. So.
Cool. And what type of people are actually taking these workshops? Is it tend to be more newbies versus people that have experience in these things, or is it people with experience coming up to brush up on their skill set?
I would say both, but certainly we've geared a number of our experiences for the beginner. And once you give the beginner how to use a snowshoe or how to camp, then give them that introduction, then they have more confidence and knowledge and skills to give it a try. So, maybe they take Martin's tarpology course, and then the next time out from Toronto, they might go and camp at a conservation authority, and then the next trip out, they do Algonquin Park, and then maybe they try a little backcountry at some point. So it's for new Canadians and beginners, it's a building process, and I think that and at the same time you're developing ethical use of the environment and promoting sustainability. So I think that's an important investment in our long-term health of our ecosystems and stuff. So really a lot of beginners for sure. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's good, because that's what you want to open this up to, is people that are wanting to experience something for the first time, like cross-country skiing, like learning how to build an igloo, like how to ice climb. Heck, I'd like to try that myself. I might. Can I enter my own draw? I want to come rock climbing. Now, a lot of these activities, they come with a bit of danger element. Like the ice climbing, what type of liabilities are we covered for, just in case something happened? Touch wood, it won't, right? But
well, in the case of the ice climbing, we work with a company called Elements Guiding. Yeah, very, very skilled, very competent. They have their insurance. Halliburton Forest has a monster insurance policy because they've got snowmobiling and all kinds of high risk activities. So we're in a very comfortable place in terms of having insurance coverage, and then we like to develop risk management plans for a lot of our activities. So we've thought through what are the risks and what are the actions we can take to mitigate risk and that sort of thing. So we certainly over the years put a lot of thought into that type of thing, so that people are safe and having fun for sure.
Sure. And are your instructors, do you find they have a lot of crossover? Like Martin, have you taken any other workshops that Yours Outdoors offers?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many experiences on offer, and Barrie's actually very generous and encourages his guides and instructors and experienced leaders to sort of cross-pollinate and experience one another's offerings. So I've had the pleasure of attending a couple not that long ago. Last winter, there was one that was the highlight for me, was snowshoeing into Canada's past with Craig McDonald. That was fantastic. I've always wanted to meet sort of the legendary Craig McDonald and to visit him in his home, to be received in his home, to go down into his basement and hear him give a talk and have him parade out his vast museum-worthy, museum-quality snowshoes from many Indigenous populations, and hear him talk about them. And it was incredible. And then we went outside and we went on a snowshoe on sort of the back 40 of this property, and it was a fantastic day. So it was great that I got to experience that. And then in November, there were 2 talks that Barrie organized. Rob Stimson, who's a very notable outdoor photographer, and I forget the other gentleman's name now. So Rob Stimson was giving a talk on photography and canoeing and paddling and outdoor photography, and there was another gentleman who was giving a talk on the geology of canoeing. What makes this part of Ontario the paradise of lakes and rivers that it is? And it was an amazing talk. It was terrific. I wish I could remember the gentleman's name now. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember. But anyway, there was 2 talks in one evening. What was his name?
John Etches.
That's it.
He's a geologist that worked for Parks Canada. Is now retired, but is.
That was terrific. I came away so enriched from that. So the first talk was just this science lesson. Yeah, Jolene, you were there. I remember seeing you there. And I just remember, it felt like I was drinking from the water fountain of knowledge. It was incredible. And then Rob follows it up with a much more laid back kind of pure aesthetic enjoyment of the landscape, mostly of Ontario, but of Canada generally as well. And it was terrific. It was a beautiful, beautiful evening. And I was really glad that I could attend that. So thank you again, Barrie, for that. That was wonderful.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I was just going to add something if I can, Dennis.
Yeah, for sure.
That because I had mentioned earlier that we're a homeschooling family, and so a lot of these experiences that Barrie offers, we've put into our program. And this talk that Martin is speaking of the other night, before Christmas, my daughter was doing a project on glaciers, and it was perfect. She did all of her research right there.
Interesting.
So not just for people, it's a lot of the experiences are family focused as well.
Yeah. Well, great little family vacation type of thing too, right? You come up to the Haliburton Islands, and you get some nice little lodging area, and maybe take a course or a workshop or 2. And you could even split it up, right? If somebody wants to go do the glass blowing, somebody wants to learn how to cross country ski, and somebody wants to learn how to ice climb. That's
another feature is the eastern part of the county around Wilberforce and Harcourt and Gooderham. They've branded themselves as Canada's geocaching capital of Canada. So I don't know if you know geocaching or not, but it's that treasure hunt, and they have gone. So in geocaching, it's a worldwide treasure hunt, and certain organizations create geo tours, which is a set of geocaches, and their geocache is number 1, or their geo tour in Eastern Haliburton Highlands is number 1 in Canada and the 4th in the world. So we have people coming from all over the place to that quiet little part of Haliburton Highlands to go geocaching. And so it's, and the geocaches, typically they're little containers that have some paper and a little swag or something. But these people over in the east there have created elaborate geocaches and structures, and you have to solve puzzles to find the geocaches. It's really quite remarkable, but it's just, again, very creative group that makes these things happen. So
yeah, that's something I've always wanted to give a try too, is geocaching. I've got some equipment there, a GPS device and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool at trying it out. So I should really maybe do a show on that one day. That'd be a pretty interesting little topic to have, right? Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Jolene, I wanted to find out a little bit more about your cross country skiing workshop that you're doing. Can you describe a day?
Well, traditionally, people come for the first hour. We just work on technique and get people comfortable falling down and getting back up, which is sometimes a challenge. We do live in the Haliburton Highlands, so there are hills. And then for the next hour, we like to go for an actual ski on the trails. if time permits. And that's sort of the ski like a Canadian. That's sort of the basic. And Barrie and I have talked over the years about, having more of a backcountry ski day, or a full day. We have a brand new clubhouse, or a cabin. I shouldn't say a clubhouse, a cabin, to have your instruction and then ski and then have a nice lunch up at the cabin and then come back and, go stay at a resort or a place with a hot tub and spend your evening in the hot tub, Yeah. So that's basically.
And where does your workshop take place in? There's obviously an area that has groomed trails, correct?
Yeah, the Haliburton Highlands, the Nordic Trails, we have 3 different trailheads, really unique. So it's hard to feel collective as a big group, but we're small and mighty. And so each of our 3 trail systems offer something different. We have Moose Woods that's more forgiving. It's longer. We have a cabin that you can have lunch at or dinner. And then Glebe Park is the park that's in town in Haliburton and has the sculpture forest as well. And it's probably our more challenging, but it has a stadium, which is fantastic for teaching. And if you learn at Glebe Park, you can ski anywhere. And then another trail system is called Twin Lakes, which is a little smaller and it's dog friendly. So, if you wanted to come away for the weekend and you have your dog with you, you can bring your dog to your ski lesson.
That's cool. Jeez. My dog get all her fur stuck between her toes though. So.
But you won't go fast.
No, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah,
there's another ski area up near Dorset, run by the Friends of the Frost Center, or actually it's run by the municipality. It's interesting. We have a local municipality that manages canoe routes and hiking trails and ski trails. And not every municipality does that, and they do a great job. So I think they got 20 or so kilometers at what they call the Frost Center.
It's a bit of a gem.
Sure.
But that's only for classic skiing. Only for classic, no skate skiing.
No skate skiing. So what can you describe the difference between the two for those that aren't knowledgeable about it like me? I used to cross country ski years ago, but I'm not up on the terms anymore.
Sounds like you need to come up for a visit.
I do. Yeah.
So classic skiing is what we would think of as more traditional, where you have a track set and your skis run parallel, and it's an elaborate walk through the woods with a little bit of glide or a lot of glide. And freestyle looks like, if you're watching the Olympics, it's the really fast. Everyone looks so fast. And you have a shorter ski than a classic ski, and you have a longer ski pole, and you take up a far more trail. So it's groomed differently for skate skiing and for classic skiing. Yeah.
So that's the one where they're giving her, right, and they're like sort of skating. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, classic is, like I say, it's, a lot of people they can do it. It's similar to walking. But freestyle, it does take a little bit more endurance and there's more techniques involved. So if your technique isn't good, then you're going to be working a lot harder than you need to be.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that your clubhouse, you do lunch there and stuff. Is that all included with your course?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
You mentioned that earlier, that you had a clubhouse and you go there and you could have lunch or what have you. Is that lunch included with your workshop?
It's not typically, but it can be, and that's the beautiful thing about Yours Outdoors. I mean, we make a suggestion. We have a calendar that has a bunch of dates, and we have a suggested program. But if you want anything, you just ask Barrie and I, and we can, or Martin and any of the other guides, and we can usually whip something up.
So it's customizable.
Very.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Actually, can I speak to the customizability of these experiences? Okay. Well, first of all, the dates that are on the calendar are dates that we have set aside. I'm going to make myself available for igloo building or hot tenting or turpology on these dates. But I mean, if someone can't make those dates and they're free some other weekend or some day in the week or something where they're going to be in the area and they'd like to do something, or you don't even have to be in the area. It just has to be someplace that they can drive to reasonably. then just let us know. And if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen. We've done that before, and happy to do so again. And the same goes for the location. I mean, you know, these things don't have to take place necessarily in Haliburton, or in the case of the igloo builds, they don't have to take place in Haliburton Forest. You know, they can take place virtually anywhere. So if you wanted an igloo in your backyard, for instance, because you want your kids to enjoy it the whole winter, then we can do that too. It has to be someplace that I can get to in my car in a reasonable amount of time. Otherwise, we have to there have to be surcharges for my travel time and so forth. Yeah. But in principle, they're quite customizable, and they're customizable in other ways too. For instance, if you're new to something like camping or winter camping, for instance, last winter I had some people who had done a lot of car camping but had never been backcountry camping. That was different. The way you know, where we went and what we did and how much instruction was involved was different than when I went with people who had never done any camping before. They'd never done anything. They'd never even done car camping, and they were launching right into hot tenting. It was a kind of birthday present to a spouse. And then there was another couple that were very experienced summer backcountry campers and backpackers, very fit, very active, and they wanted an adventure. So I said to Barrie, how about we do this? How about we go, I take them out on Crown land. So we went out in an area, and it was really quite remote, and took them out there and really pushed them, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to experience really hard sled hauling. They were fit, they were active, they were CrossFitters. They really wanted to get in there and do this. And I said, okay, we'll do this. We're going to go up and down hills and through dense forests. And so I tailored the experience for them, for the kind of experience that they wanted. They wanted something more remote. They wanted to feel more removed. They didn't want to be in a front country setting. Other people not so comfortable with that. They'd kind of like it if there was an outhouse nearby or something like that, right? So one was more remote and primitive. The other one was just, you know, quite far away from that. And one couple actually wanted an igloo build. They said, hey, we're going to go hot tenting. Any chance we can build an igloo? And I said, yeah, we can try. It depends how much time we have. And if we get an early start, we can. And so, you know, these things are sort of amenable to change and discussion. We can just sort of negotiate these things. So if there's something in particular that you want, we can probably do it as long as I feel that I'm qualified to do it, that I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm going to be doing, and I can have time to think about it. And as long as everyone's going to be safe. Safety is paramount.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. That's cool. You know, you don't find many things like this that are so customizable or so forgiving, is I guess that's a term we can use, right? You know, you're willing to work with people the way that to set to their skill level type of thing too. So that's
well, I mean, it's not cookie cutter. I mean, I know what I think I need to impart minimally for anyone who wants to take, for instance, a tarpology course. But I mean, what I'm going to impart in a tarpology course is someone who's never been camping is going to be completely different from someone who's been camping for years, but they just need to up their game when it comes to knots and stringing lines and stringing a tarp. So, you know, obviously you tailor the experience to the people that you have and how many people that you have and what their various skill levels are. So yeah, these things are really sort of extremely elastic in their customizability. I happen to like that. I feel like I'm offering something better in the way of instruction when I get to talk to the people either in a video call or on the telephone for a while and figure out what they know, what they don't know, where the gaps are in their knowledge, what kind of experience they want to have while they're out there. Because I don't want it to just be like a classroom. I don't want it to be just instruction. I want them to have a good time, right? I mean, winter camping is fantastic fun. You want them to have a good time. You want them to enjoy the surroundings, right? But you have to tailor that to people's level of comfort when it comes to things like remoteness and stuff like that.
Sure. Now, your tarpology, is that a workshop offered to Yours Outdoors?
Yep, it is. It is. Yep. We ran it. Ran a couple of sessions last summer. They went over very, very well. Well, so far, actually, I have to say, all of the offerings that I've had have had really very favorable reviews and good feedback, and some good constructive criticism that I've sort of been able to put forward and apply in subsequent workshops. So that's actually been good for me because I learned from these as well. But the tarpology was a lot of fun and it was nice. In the case of the tarpology, all of the participants in the workshops were people who had done a considerable amount of camping. None of these people were novices. These were people that really wanted to up their game. And that for me was particularly gratifying, actually. It's a certain kind of gratification to take people who've never done something and introduce them to it. But there's a different level of gratification that you get with people who have been doing something for a long time, but there's like a hole in their knowledge, and you're there to say, okay, here we go. We're going to flesh this out for you. And that's a different kind of satisfaction that I enjoy just as much.
Can you give me a little rundown on tarpology? Like you mentioned a few tidbits of it though, but is it more than just learning how to string a tarp? Is it like learning how to different tarp structures and things of that sort?
Yeah. So I mean, there's more than one way to string a tarp, right? It doesn't make sense to say this is how you string a tarp. It depends on the weather conditions. It depends on the temperature. It depends how many people you have. It depends whether you want to have a fire underneath the tarp, or how windy it is. Is the rain falling sideways because it's so windy? Are you stringing a tarp in winter? How much time do you have because there's an impending storm and you need a tarp up in a hurry, as opposed to guying it out very, very methodically and stuff like that. So it's all about the myriad ways that you can rig and string a tarp. It's about what to look for when you buy a tarp. And depending on your purposes, what you're going to put it to, whether you're a backpacker, whether you're a canoeist, whether you're winter camping, and so forth. So different types of materials for tarps, different types of construction, what to get, what to avoid, various best practices for stringing them, how to restring a tarp. Let's say the wind changes direction completely on you, and now you got to restring your tarp. Well, do you have to take it down completely, or can you sort of rework things a little bit at a time and change the orientation of your camp and your shelter? Yes, you can do that. There are ways to do that, and we cover that. What if there's not enough trees around? What if there's no ground to stake anything into? There's only rocks and stuff like that. Cover all of that. What if you want to have a fire under a tarp because you want to cook under it because it's pouring rain? How do you do that safely without burning holes with embers and stuff like that in your tarp? How do you do this safely? There's ways to do this. And of course, to do that, you have to know some knots. And so these are all hands-on workshops. I demonstrate and I explain the principles, and then we sit down and we work with some knots for a while, and then we string some tarps, and we work with some knots for a while, and then we string some more tarps. I bring along a variety of tarps that people can use. I invite people, if they have a tarp of their own that they use, to bring that so we can practice with their tarp if they wish. It's really... the day is full. Like you'd think, oh, there's not going to be a lot of material, but because it's hands-on and you have to practice, and when you're learning knots, you have to have someone sort of right there correcting you. This is how you do it. And with all of these, there are handouts, so that there's a refresher when you leave, when you go home. There's something in your hand that you can refer to help remind you. And there's something else I have done with all of my workshops, and that is, I sort of see this as an ongoing instructional project. So if people have questions about tarps and knots and stringing these things, they can contact me. They have my contact information. They can email me with their questions. Same thing with hot tenting. Same thing with igloo building. I always tell the people that are participating in my workshops, if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate, right? I sort of see this as sort of baked into the price of admission, right? There's some ongoing instruction here. No one's tried to sort of abuse that, but a number of people have made use of that, and I find that very gratifying that they're willing to, they remain interested in the subject enough that they want to follow up on it. And in some cases, I've had people said, I'm trying to work this knot and I can't do it, and I forget how it works, and I'm not sure if I'm doing something wrong. And so I say, well, take a picture of it or describe it to me, and then I'll, right here in my living room, I'll start stringing up some knots and stuff like that, and I'm just recording myself, and then I send it to them. Here you go. Here's a follow-up tutorial on video. So it's not like you just show up and for a course. All of my experiences are courses. They're not experiences, right? They're courses, right? It's a different, right? There's an experience to be had, but what I'm offering is instructional primarily. And I want that instruction to be ongoing.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I knew there was more to it than just, ridgeline and 4 tie oats or something, right? So, yeah, because like you say, there's a million different ways you can string up a tarp. That's great. You know what? It's really refreshing to know that all these workshops are available in a beautiful area, to say the least. And I hope to get up there and try it out myself. That'd be really cool. One day, Martin, you and I are going to build an igloo together.
I'd love that.
That's awesome. Barrie, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close up for the evening?
Not in particular. It's been a great opportunity to share some of the things that we do. And I can't say enough about the people I work with, like Jolene and Martin and so many other people that are really committed to offering great experiences. So grateful for that. And it's a community that supports these types of things. We have great infrastructure like the ski trails, and we have people who are willing to share and promote what experiences are available. It's really great working with Haliburton Forest itself is a great destination. With 100 lakes, you can spend all day exploring that area, and you can buy a day pass and go in and explore that 100,000 acres on your own any day. And you can do that by vehicle. You can do that by a mountain bike, gravel bike. So there's lots of opportunities there, and that's the best possible place for my company to be right now, because that's part of my retirement plan, succession plan. So it's so great to be part of that particular company. So cool. Yeah, I don't have any other comments right now.
Okay, I'm going to throw one quick question on here before we close up for the evening. From Amy, she's asking, is there a possibility of remote Zoom workshops and learning, such as the Tarpology workshop? Is anything like that offered?
Nothing that I'm offering.
Yeah, we get that asked. We get that question all the time, but we're really committed to having people there and having those hands-on experiences. The online stuff has a role, I suppose, but you're going to walk away with a much better set of skills and knowledge if you've got someone like Martin or Jolene.
Yeah.
May I speak to that very briefly? Something like Tarpology, I mean, you have to be in the woods. You have to be among the trees and sort of figure out, well, where am I going to string this, right? You can't do that in video, right? The idea of sort of the problem solving, the ingenuity that you're going to have to apply, you have to be immersed in the situation. You want to be physically in the environment, and you want to be able to discuss it with me and the other participants and sort out, what would be a good idea? Which two trees do we want to start stringing our tarp from at the beginning, and where will we guy out to and stuff like that? You have to be immersed in the environment. That's not really going to work in video. So I'm willing to follow up to answer simple questions and do little demonstrations with a video or something like that. But that's for the benefit of people who've actually been there and gotten the benefit of being there. And also, you learn so much better face to face, right? In a video, it's one way. I'm talking. You can try to ask a question, but if I'm busy doing something because I'm being recorded or filmed or something like that, it's just not going to work. You really have to be there. And when it comes to knot tying, it helps if there's someone right there who can say, "Hang on, stop right there. Take this hand, do this with it," right? And you can't do that with video, in my opinion. So, or maybe somebody can, but I know I can't do that.
Yeah.
And travelers love to meet local people. So,
yeah,
meeting people like Martin and Jolene, that's an experience in itself. So, cool. And we have lots of local characters too.
Just gonna close up here with a couple of comments here. Inhale the Wind says, I have so much to say regarding Saturday's hard work, and I'd love to give Barrie my greatest respect for offering a service that brings everyone together, both learners and sharers alike. So I'd imagine she may have taken one of your workshops of late. And
no, she was a volunteer. She's a friend of mine, and she volunteered to help me out with the igloo build. So she was that poor soul who worked tirelessly to push snow for hours for the benefit of everyone else. So yeah, no, she was fantastic.
Yeah. And then Barrie, good old Kevin Callan says hello. He loves hello.
Hi, Kevin.
Well, that would be about that then for tonight's show. Barrie, Jolene, Martin, thank you very much for joining tonight, sharing more information on Yours Outdoors in the Haliburton Highland area. You know what? If anybody's interested in gathering more information on what Yours Outdoors has to offer, I do have links to all your socials and website down below. Go on there, check it out, book yourself a couple of workshops, make a nice weekend out of it. You know what? Getting out in the wintertime is always fun, but don't forget they offer courses year round. So this is an opportunity to get out there and experience all that the Haliburton Highlands have to offer year round, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Dennis. It's been a pleasure and nice to meet all of you.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, I'm just going to put you all down into the green room, and I will close up, and we'll see you in a few short moments.
Right. Thanks. Good night.
Oh, sorry, I think he was thanking everybody. Well, everybody, thanks very much for tuning in tonight to Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. I am currently just want to let everybody know for next week. There's probably going to be a show, but there might not. There's a remote chance. Things are just still being or in the working stages for next week's topic. But check us out on Facebook at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show throughout the week, and I will keep that posted. I am actually heading up north doing a little bit of ice fishing myself this weekend, so I'm going out to enjoy a little bit of the blustery, wintry weather up around North Bay myself. So in the meantime, I hope everybody has a great week. We hope to see you next week, and remember, everybody, please keep the adventures alive. Until next time.